Joining me today on the Off Ball podcast is a man that needs no introduction. He's a legend not only in Toronto, but everywhere he goes. I wouldn't be surprised if there are movies made about the miracles he's performed on the baseball diamond. He's the reason kids around the globe are flipping their bats. And I got none other than the home run hitting, bat flipping, charity giving man known as Jose Bautista. Jose, how are you, my man?
Thank you. Appreciate the kind words and the hype. You might have a second career as a hype man.
Thank you. I like to get the people hyped before they come on so, they can kind of relax and feel good. So, it's talking about feeling good, bro. So 2015, I know everybody's talked about that. You know that game well. Everybody knows that game well. I remember being at that game and the feeling you gave everybody in Toronto. Like, does that top anything you've ever felt in your life?
No, that's the moment for me in my career and in my life so far. That's the moment that I can go back to and say, you know what? At least I can say that I impacted people's lives positively, at least for that moment,
Yeah.
Nobody was thinking about their problems. Nobody was thinking about anything else other than that our team just went ahead in the playoffs in a big moment. And, I was fortunate enough to be in that position, let alone come through,
Yeah.
So it's something that I'll always cherish.
For sure. And, baseball is such a thinking man's game. And, other sports, football, basketball, things are just happening bang, bang, bang. But baseball, you got time to think. And you're sitting on deck circle and you see the situation unfolding. What's going through your head? Are you thinking, I got a chance to be a hero? Or are you just trying to blank out and just perform?
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to tune into the game, watch the pitcher's every movement, just so I can pick up body language, how he's feeling, how he might be thinking, anything that I can get insight to his head, I'm watching, And lucky for me, the guy that was on the mound was an execution guy, not a repertoire guy. So he wasn't a guy with 7 different weapons. He was a guy with 2 weapons, and it's about how precise and how good he can execute. And on that particular pitch, he didn't hit a spot. But I knew that most likely he was going to go with that pitch. So
Right.
That was my advantage for sticking to my gut and what I had done as my homework coming into the game and the preparation. And just remembering my experiences from having faced that guy earlier in the year, because I did face him like 2 or 3 times before that same year during the regular season.
Right. So, and also tell me, what was it about him in particular? Because the bat flip was unbelievable. It was cool. It was unbelievable. But the moment you made contact for 2-3 seconds, you're looking at him almost like, did you just throw me that? Right. And I don't know if it's an out of body experience or what, but basketball players do it when they'll dunk on someone and they'll stare at them for a second, like, don't jump, or, you know what I mean? Or somebody mosses someone in football, you just stare at the guy like, come on, man, don't try me. But you looked at, I remember, because I was at the game, I remember they showed it over and over on the Jumbotron, and you stared at him for like half a second, 2-3 seconds before you tossed the bat. What was going through your head in that moment?
I can't remember. It was something in the moment, and quite frankly, I can't even tell you right now if I was looking at him or something in that direction in the vicinity of where he was, but I don't even remember tossing the bat. Something that happens in the moment, you're so submerged, and that series was so intense, and it was game 5, winner moves on.
Yeah.
That game was crazy. I mean, you were there.
Yeah.
We gave up the lead on a crazy play where the guy was on third and the ball hit the bat when the catcher was throwing it back to the pitcher, and then they made 3 errors. We hit a blooper that should have been an out, and we ended up, that whole series of events, it just kind of culminated in that moment. And I can't really say that I planned anything or thought about doing it. It just came out natural, and it worked out great. Obviously, we won the game, but that moment it's going to be hard to replicate,
100%. And you're right. Like, everything leading up to that moment, it almost felt like the whole country was in that building, the energy that we felt. And, I played football like in Ohio State and Georgia. Both those, stadiums hold over 100K, and it's loud, and it almost feels unreal, the amount of people you see and the noise they can make. But that day, that was probably the most energy I've ever felt in my life, honestly. Just everything that built up, like you said, the culmination of the events leading up to that moment, and you hitting the ball. And there was 2 sounds that day. So when you hit the ball, there was a loud roar, right? But then once we figured out the ball was going over the fence, it was like pandemonium. Like, you know what I mean? It was like a parade. Like explain like that moment when after you saw the ball was going over the fence and like what was going through your head in that moment? Was there anything ever louder than that?
No. When I hit it, I knew it was gone. So for me, it was that moment.
Okay.
But no, I've never experienced anything like that. And people say, you know what, when people are all connected and life is vibration and energy, it's like that stuff is no joke. Because I truly felt like my whole body was vibrating from the noise. I mean, you can see the camera shaking.
Yeah.
And it felt like I was doing what I was doing, but it's kind of like surreal. Like I was floating when I was running around the bases, you know?
Oh.
So much energy and so much, you know, I was so pumped up that it was, you know, I've never felt like that in my life. So right. That was amazing.
Yeah, that honestly, as a fan and, you know, being in there, that was incredible for me. And, you know, every athlete, you know, has, you know, a game that they will never forget for whatever reason it is. Other than the bat flip game, do you have like another game that, you know, is always in your head? You know, you'll be maybe playing golf, walking down the green and be like, oh man, I remember that day where, you know, this and this happened. Do you have that game?
Yeah, for sure. But before we get to that, I want to give you a little sneak peek.
Woo. Ooh.
That's the guy.
Oh man, he did it. Yeah. Man, hey, that guy had me the next day, man. I was at practice. Like I caught a little ball. I flipped the ball across the field, man. I almost, you know, the defense was almost so mad at me. But like all day that day, I was flipping everything. We played ping pong in the locker room. I flipped that. Everything I was flipping. So you had, you know, the whole country, you know, doing that. That must have been
yeah, there was a lot of, you know, stuff going on Twitter and people flipping everything. And I've seen other athletes, like somehow the hockey guys were flipping their sticks.
Yes.
Stephon Diggs flipped his helmet. You know, that was legit. So it's cool to see other people replicate it. But back to your question, yeah, my 50th home run in Toronto. We were playing against Seattle's. Felix Hernandez, one of the best pitchers of our time, was pitching. And it was in the first inning, so I didn't think much of it. And I got fooled. There was 2 outs, nobody on base, but it was super windy. The wind was blowing out. I got fooled on a changeup. I clipped it kind of out in front. I knew I hit it decent, but I thought it was an easy out. But the wind just took the ball, went out of the stadium. It ended up that we won that game 1-0, and that was the only hit he gave up the whole game.
Wow, Felix was special.
And it was my 50th, so
yeah, that's a milestone that every, you know, home run hitter looks at. But back to what you're saying about, you know, Diggs flipping his helmet and what was the coolest thing to come out of the, you know, the bat flip game? Because, you know, you had an insect named after you. Did you know that?
I knew that. I saw that some Toronto scientist, or, you know, I forget what he does professionally, but I did see that he named some sort of insect after me. It was pretty cool. I mean, I guess my name is gonna be cemented in the medias for the rest of time.
100%.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So you'd say that was the coolest thing to come out of that, or was there something else that, you know, we kind of don't know about? Like, was, you know?
No, I think without even talking about specific like events or circumstances, but just the whole how bat flips are treated and how they're looked at. You know, thankfully after that, people started noticing, realizing, and accepting that it's part of the game, just as a touchdown celebration or a dunk celebration. It's nothing that you mean against the opposition to make them look bad or to rub it in their face or anything. It's a celebration of a great play in a game. You know, it's no different than that. Obviously, you got to respect, you know, the situation, but I felt like in the playoffs and in that moment, you know, after I did it, because again, I didn't plan it, I felt like it was okay. And I took a little bit of heat, but for the most part, it was extremely positive. But now, after some time has passed, and that after I flipped the bat, it kind of came to light and it created a lot of discussion back and forth. Now it's more accepted. The kids are doing it.
Yes.
And it's, I think, bringing people together to watch our game that I truly love with all my heart. And I think it's pretty cool that now people don't get so upset and bat flips are not looked at as such a negative. So I'm happy about that.
That's awesome, because honestly, that that made a lot of people that honestly didn't watch baseball like kind of start tuning in. I remember because we have a lot of American teammates from all over, and that that time period, that series 2015, they all converted into Blue Jay fans. They were all talking about bat flipping, dudes that never even like thought about twice about baseball. We're now watching the highlights in the locker room, talking about baseball, like asking questions. So it was pretty cool, and that's something I felt as well coming into it.
We had some great teams, and I was lucky to be a part of that. I was
absolutely.
I was lucky to be in the middle of all that and being part of those great squads, because there's not a better feeling when you show up to the ballpark every single day with a great team and you just know you're gonna steamroll somebody. There's no better feeling than that. Nothing hurts. Everything feels good. You just can't wait for game time.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's funny how it's the opposite when you're on a bad team. All of a sudden, your body starts aching. You're checking the clock. Oh man, I gotta get there now. You know what I mean? It's funny how it just flips, and that's how teams get on a roll like you guys were on.
100%.
So let's talk about your rise to be superstardom. So you obviously get drafted by Pittsburgh, and you spent a little bit of time there and got traded a few times before you ended up actually landing in Toronto, right? So what I want to know is what was the difference in energy from when you were in Pittsburgh to when you got in Toronto? Because announcers, fans, teammates, other team, they probably treat you a little different when the superstar Jose is coming up versus the utility player Jose, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I would say even at first in Toronto was sort of similar than Pittsburgh, because the team wasn't in a great spot and I wasn't necessarily, performing at the same level that I did later. So there was a big contrast even on my early days in Toronto than the later days. Yeah, 100% different, and when things kind of click and everything comes together, you have the right coach that sees the vision of you succeeding because of how they envision you as an athlete, and they put you in the right opportunity and they help you, get to that level that you maybe haven't reached yet. They give you the right instruction, the right inspiration, the right, set of tools to kind of get better at all of your weaknesses. And then you get that playing time and you start executing, and the team kind of rallies around you, and then the fans hop on your back, and the TV announcers, and everybody's just, it feels like you're a freaking Hulk when you're going out there, as opposed to when you're not, and you're just trying to grind through it. You're hoping for that one decent hit a day, and go home. It's like, oh, I survived another day. Maybe I'll get to do it again tomorrow if I'm in the lineup. So yeah, I was able to get up to that place and ride that wave for a good 7-8 years, which man, I look back on it now and I'm like, oof, I was definitely in the zone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Trust me, I haven't seen a run like that in a long time, man. So once everything clicked, did it make sense as to why things weren't working before? Like once you got the instruction, you got the coaching, you got the playing time, like did it finally make sense? It's like, okay, this is what I was missing. And was it kind of like aha moment or something else?
Yeah, in hindsight, I feel like everybody can go back and say, oh, no wonder I wasn't, you see, the weaknesses that you might have had in your game planning, in your philosophies, in your strategies when you're at the plate, depending on the situations, what you're actually trying to do, your rate of lack of execution. Because in football and basketball, the rate of execution is flip-flop. In those sports, you got to be 70% accurate or correct, or you got to execute at the 70% clip to be good.
Right.
In my sport, if you execute at 30%, you're a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
So you got to learn how to deal with failure. I was never great at that, but I got better as I got older. Controlling my temper a little bit. So you see here and there was like, man, if I would have not done this so much when I was younger, if I would have trained a different way, if I would have slept a little more, if I would have had, not try to go out and party 3 times a week, but maybe just one time a week. And you get to do that before you're 30, but after that, your body lets you know real quick, okay, you gotta slow down because it's not gonna last very long. Yeah. So you learn things as you go, and again, the work ethic and the watching video. So learning from veteran guys, because at first you're kind of scared. You don't want to talk a lot. You don't want to be out of place.
Right.
Everybody's got their routine. You don't want to disturb that. So you're respectful. You got to find ways to navigate and get through to teammates and learn from them, and how to talk to your coach without him feeling that also you're not being disrespectful. And you got to get to know people. I think that's one of the things that I would do way different if I were to restart again. And so if I were to meet myself when I was, a rookie, like, get to know guys, talk to them, get that camaraderie going, but also get in their brain and know how they work and what makes them tick and why they're good at what they do, and try to just feed off of that and learn. It's not that I didn't want to do it. I was just too scared to do it at first.
Yeah, I got you. And for you became a superstar a little bit later on in your career. And some dudes, are superstars from when, they start walking, they start playing the game. They're good, they're great, drafted high, first round pick, signing bonus, all that, right? So they're used to being kind of on top. What's kind of the mental side of it when you go from, a utility guy to a superstar? Because everything changes, right? So like, what's kind of like the thing that the process you're going through, the changes that you're going through, you have to like daily, that once you become a superstar, like things that you can't do anymore, or, just your lifestyle is different. Like what's that process like mentally from, switching over so late as you did?
Well, I think you appreciate things a little more. So I think you are a little bit more thankful for everything you get. I'm not saying that guys that get it early are not,
right.
But once you've kind of grinded for a while and you get it, you kind of soak in it a little longer and enjoy it and accept it, and you're thankful for it. I think also for me, it was, not be able to, I used to, go out with my wife and have dinner and have my glass of wine in public when I was a utility guy, because nobody cared. But now it's like, okay, I can't have that glass of wine because I can't go to the keg and do that and then have somebody tweet at me tomorrow.
Right.
I don't do good because now they're going to say it's because I was drinking wine at the keg, So you put things in a balance, but then avoiding a little bit of, I used to go grocery shopping and do, then it would just turn into more taking pictures and signing autographs. And when I was putting myself out in public, I was going to do it for the fans because I need to show my appreciation, and I did appreciate it. So I wasn't going to put myself out in the public situation to then say no.
Right.
But after a while, what you do is you manage how often you do that, and you end up doing it less because, you just have to manage your time and spend 100%. Time with your kids. And then I started having kids after that, and it's just how it kind of goes. So you still do it, but you do it less just to manage your time better.
Absolutely. And, before coming into Toronto, what was, your expectation in your head? You're getting traded to a Canadian city. I don't know if you've been here prior to that, but, you're coming to a Canadian city. You probably heard it's cold in the winter time, but what were your expectations before coming? And then while you were leaving, what was the reality?
I had only been in Toronto once, because when I was with Tampa Bay Rays, I had to come for a series early in the year. Mm-hmm. I think it was in April. Ooh. So it was cold. It wasn't snowing, but it was cold. But, that's the only, I had been in Ottawa, I think in AAA once as well. But obviously that's way different.
Right.
But coming into Toronto, other than knowing from the history of some former Dominican players like Tony Fernandez, George Bell, Juan Guzman, and others, their stories and when they got coverage and how Toronto, they spoke so highly about the fan base and the city. I really didn't have a lot of knowledge or exposure other than those 2 times that I told you. So when I got traded, I was like, man, the first thing I thought is, I went from one of the weakest divisions in baseball, the National League Central, to now American League East with Boston and the Yankees. And I'm like, oh man. And, my confidence was already a little down because that team let me go.
Right.
But then these guys picked me up. So it was kind of like a pivot in my confidence, especially after I met Cito and I met JP Ricciardi, who was the GM at the time, and some of the other front office people. They brought me in. They're like, listen, we know it hasn't been pretty for the last few years, or it hasn't been up to your capabilities or great, but we really believe in you. They kind of just, started pumping me up, and I got fully into it, and that's kind of how the ride started. And my confidence came right up. But my exposure to Toronto, immediately I was like blown away. What a great place to play. What a great city. I love the fact that it's diverse. People from all over the world, second, third generation, mostly professionals or born into professional families. Everybody's so accepting and so understanding of other cultures. And it wasn't necessarily like that where I played before. Right. Not that it was, bad in the sense of what's happening in today's landscape, where there was a lot of protesting because of, outrage of, stuff that was happening. But you can sense that there was a little bit more separation from how accepting people were. And also the energy of the people and how upbeat it was, and everybody's just about having fun and enjoying life and helping each other out. It's my experience in Toronto was amazing.
Yeah. No, honestly, we definitely enjoyed having you, and it was a treat to go to the park and know that we were gonna watch some bombs. But going back to your days in Pittsburgh, or even earlier than that, is there anything funny that you had to do as a utility player that you look back on, and when you were a superstar, I was like, man, I can't believe they had me out there doing that? Or just maybe pranks people used to pull on you. I don't know, but something that you look back on, a utility player maybe carrying people's bags every day, or I don't know. But something like that you look back on and you're like, man, they got me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it happens in baseball for every rookie, regardless if you're a superstar or not. It's kind of slowed down a little bit, and it's not necessarily hazing, but they do try to break you in some ways. And in baseball, the thing is either carrying people's bags or delivering the luggage to the rooms on road trips, or bringing, drinks on and off the bus.
Okay.
That's usually how it is. But my thing was when I was in Pittsburgh, especially my last 1 or 2 years there, they used to make me hit behind the pitcher. So they would hit the pitcher 8th, and they would hit me 9th.
Oh.
So that was my thing. That I'm like, oh man, I can't believe this.
Oh my God, hey man, because obviously it's a national league, but having the pitch, were you looking at the pitcher like, how do they expect this guy that is pitching, his job is to pitch? They thinking that the pitcher is better at hitting than me?
Well, I don't think it was necessarily that. There was a little bit of strategy behind it, but still, as an athlete, your mind goes there where you are, So it took me a little bit to kind of come to terms with it. Yeah. But it was, we had slow catcher. They'd rather hit them, right before the pitcher, because if they hit the sacrifice bunt, or if somebody hits a double, like the bases would be clogged anyways. It was, they wanted to have me, since I was a little better at running early in my career. They wanted to have 2 leadoff guys. When the lineup turned over. There was a little bit of that, but in my eyes initially, and it kind of hurt. It kind of hurt my ego a little bit.
No, for sure. And once you started getting better, I don't know, because baseball is a little different, but the way you play baseball, you got a lot of intensity, almost like a way a football player would play. Or a basketball player, just just that energy in it. So what was some of the best verbal exchanges you've had with other pitchers where, they said something and you're like, okay, and then you made him pay? Because I'm thinking, I remember, man, Darren O'Day, submarine pitcher, he would always give guys trouble, but for some reason he loved, to kind of talking to you for some reason. And I feel like it was four different times where you made him pay. That's who comes to mind. But was there other, guys you can think of that, verbal exchanges you had with them, and, things were said back and forth and you kind of gave it to them?
No, not really. You know what? It doesn't happen very often in baseball.
Yeah.
Because that specifically, the pitcher's got the ball. They can plunk you whenever they feel like it. And but I do remember the situations with O'Day, and I think it started innocently where, maybe I had a little bit of success. Then he kind of got back at me and struck me out 4 out of 5 times. And
Yeah.
it just happened to one day, he struck me out. He said something. I think he was pumping himself up, but then I kind of asked him if he said something, and then we're both athletes. We're alpha males. We're out there.
Yeah.
He's not gonna back down at that point. So he says something in return, and just kind of started a little back and forth. But it's all good, and it's just in the nature of the sport,
Yeah.
I would not that I would take it personally or try to fight him if I see him on the street.
No, it was awesome to see. It's just because you're right. Baseball is difficult to even hit the ball, but when a dude is kind of challenging you and you're able to deliver, like that's in baseball, that's the ultimate because it's so hard. Why do you think kind of the back and forth kind of elevates your game?
I don't know. I kind of get zoned in, and I kind of, there's certain situations when that happens that I'm like, I kind of get to block everything out, and I'm like, I'm fully in there. There's no other thoughts that are crossing my head, and I'm just, completely zoned in. It doesn't happen all the time, but particularly in those situations, I kind of go there, and I can't really explain why. Maybe it's something that happened when I was younger, and I just always been able to get back to it,
Yeah.
But I can't explain it.
That's awesome though. It can get quiet during games, and fans, give it to players, they chirp. What's the funniest like fan player, chirping situation you've ever witnessed?
I faced so many that it's hard to kind of pick one up. But one that was particularly funny happened to me, and somebody happened to be recording it, and it's running around on Instagram. So, after some years, I started using a guard when I ran the bases, right?
Yeah.
So when I slide, and then, sprain my wrist, and I put it in my back pocket, and it looked like I had a phone or something in there.
Yeah.
I was in Chicago, I think, playing against the White Sox, and I was on the on-deck circle, just getting loose, getting ready, and I don't know why this guy was like, try to make fun of that. He said something about, why do I have in my back pocket? It's in my checkbook, and I was like, I don't know where it came out, but it just, I like immediately hit him back, like, no, my checkbook doesn't fit in my back pocket. So it was pretty funny, and everybody laughed in his area of seating except for him, and everybody was mocking him.
Yeah.
So it was cool. And then after I came by and I gave him a high five, whatever, it was all fun and games, but it was pretty funny. And the fact that somebody recorded and that thing is running out on Instagram, it's pretty cool.
Nah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. There's nothing like those fan player interactions because it just kind of brings the life of the game out, and I feel like it's a good part of the game.
There's a couple of stadiums like the Yankees, Oakland, where the right field section is notoriously known for giving the right fielder they just heckle you the whole game. So I usually try to get a back and forth.
Yeah.
But it was all in the spirit of getting them into the game, And I did it as long as I could stay focused. But there's a lot of dead time in baseball.
Yes.
I used to mess with them. They messed with me. It was cool. I enjoy that part, and I miss it, that part of the game.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Also, like, part of the game is, like you said, the dead time, right? So, like, when, plays kind of stopped or, things are going on, you see guys, like, chewing gum, talking. But for you, I always remember, and it was, like, me and my wife used to watch the games, and, like, we used to remember you, like, always stretching, always loosening up your back, always, like, doing some sort of yoga. I think one time we saw you hanging upside down on the dugout, and it was funny, but I kid you not, I started incorporating, like, in practice. You asked my teammates in practice, like, every chance I get, I'll start stretching, like, loosen up, like, different body parts. How did that start for you, and what made you take it so far?
I think it was a combination of one, getting older, and the intensity. It builds up, so you create tension, and you know how it is. You want to reach that tension when you need it to kind of to pull and go.
Yeah.
But when you're just sitting there, you want to be as relaxed as possible, so you get less tired over. Our games are almost 3.5 hours long. So it started with that and getting more in tune with my body, and in the off seasons with my workout, just learning and feeling different things and understanding which part was tight, what needed loosen up, what wasn't moving well. And it's just, once you go down that rabbit hole, you kind of get obsessed, and you want to feel as good as you can in every second. And in the past, I was like oblivious to it because I wasn't even paying attention.
Right.
I could be sitting there with a hamstring that's about to cramp, and I wouldn't even know. And then I would take off, and then I was like, pull up, you know? So it started like that, and I was able to avoid soft tissue stuff later in my career. Huge. I used to get, cramps in my hamstrings maybe like once a month, to the point where I needed to come out of a game and, ice them down, hydrate, stretch them out, do a little eccentric work just to not cramp up the next day. And I'd be sore for a few days, but then I could be back to playing. But I avoided all of that later in my career. My injuries later in my career were more, banging my against the wall and spraining my big toe, spraining my wrist because my cleat got caught in the turf, stuff like that.
Yeah. No, you were prevented prehab, so you don't have to rehab. That was yeah. No, I got you. Talking about walk up music. So what's your process, to selecting a walk up song?
It changed. Sometimes it was I'm in the zone and I feel a certain way when I listen to this song, and I want to feel like that when I want to go up to the plate. At other times it was like, man, I'm not feeling great. I need to get the crowd pumped up. So when I get into the batter's box, everybody's kind of like into it, and I feed off of that energy. Sometimes it's, let a teammate pick it, make him feel good. I let you. You're gonna bring me good luck, so I let you pick my song, and if it works, I'm gonna stick with you. I did that with a couple of the clubhouse guys too. So just kind of bringing people in, just kind of creating that everybody, let's pull the rope in the same direction kind of thing. So it depends, but I've seen it, and it changes for every guy. Some guys have like slow country music because they want to show a little bit of their personality to the fans. It can change for everybody, but those were the way that I looked at it.
100%. But has there ever been a dude that had a song that quite didn't match, his play, or even vice versa, a dude that was, a stud, but his song was like you said, maybe like country music or something slow, or something to that extent?
Yeah, I always thought it was odd. There was a couple of guys that were, very spiritual, religious, and nothing against that, because I encourage that and I love it.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if I'm getting ready to battle in the batter's box, I want to kind of feel that way. And a couple of guys were, playing their slow, like music, Christian music, and I was like, man, all right.
Yeah, if it works.
I would listen to that after the game,
right?
In the middle of the game. And there was a few guys that later in their career, they're kind of funny, sarcastic guys. I remember, I think it was Mark DeRosa, or I think he let somebody pick a song for him. And he was a little older, like in his last season, and he used to just joke around all the time. It's like, man, it's just not the same. I'm not the same. And he used to come out to a rock song from like the 80s that started saying something like, I'm as cold as ice. I'm like, that's the last thing you want to think when you're about to go ahead. What are we doing? Yeah. Like reverse psychology. I'm like, no, let's not do that. But, guys do crazy stuff. And, there's a lot of superstitions in baseball. I was never one of those guys, but I saw a lot of crazy stuff over the years.
That's funny. Guys, imagine?
I've seen guys chugging like what you call it, shotgunning like a beer, but like a Red Bull right before the game. Yeah. I'm like, man, you guys are nuts.
It Brett Lowry?
Yeah. I've seen guys like wear the same socks and not wash them if they're like getting hits.
Yeah.
I've seen guys, it's just crazy what you see. Guys that put their clothes on the same way. Guys that have to have the same drink at the same time every day. Guys that if they get a hit, they have to sit on this. They try to replicate their day and do the same thing all over again. It's like, I don't have time to be thinking about all that.
I think it's funny because you're right. Like I don't have the time, but like, you mean to tell me like the way I put my sock on, the sequence of events that led to me putting my sock on that way is the reason why the pitcher threw a fastball inside and I was able to hit that. Like that never made sense for me. It's funny.
But if you believe it, it's kind of like the placebo effect, right? More to you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just not like that.
I love dudes that are like that because I like to make fun of them because when it starts getting serious, I start keeping track, like especially dudes in football, like guys that are super superstitious. I start to keep track of like, when they did this and what actually happened, and then like when we're not playing, I like to remind them like, man, it's not working. What's your stance on robot umpires? What do you think about that? Because I just read a study like yesterday. I saw that the MLB examined over 4 million pitches in 11 seasons, and they saw that umpires miss hundreds of thousands of balls and strikes. So, what do you think? It might be the future, or it's just it's an old man. It's kind of old thinking game. What's your thoughts on?
Well, I think we need to use any technology developments that's proven to help to make our sport better. I would hate for that to eliminate any jobs in our sport. So I don't think it should eliminate the role of any umpire.
Right.
But if that helps them be better moving forward,
Right.
and initially we use it or they use it to, kind of help them be better, just like statistics and the measuring of exit velocities and
Right.
some of these other stuff StatCast is doing for baseball for the players. They can use it the same way to make the umpires, be more consistent or improve, or maybe there's a few small amount of them that are notoriously bad,
Right.
and they can eliminate those. I don't know. I think it's. I would be open to it if I was involved in baseball in any way, and I would try to get the umpires to get on board.
Right.
Just because I think it can make our sport better in general. But
100%.
not. I don't think I would support it if it meant that any umpires would be losing their jobs. I don't think that's the way that it should go.
100%, and that's what I was reading, because they're proposing it to aid umpires in doing their jobs. It'd be like some kind of system they have in their ear that helps them if they're unsure, or it helps them make the correct call, so they're not guessing.
Because I'm telling you, dude, it is not hard. Sometimes the difference. It's really hard. Sometimes the difference between a ball and strike is this much, and the
Right.
ball's this big. So
Right.
we are asking a lot of them. So if we can help them in any way be better, we should.
Have you had any umpires that you're non-deck circle, or you start the game and you just know this dude for some reason when it's close it's not going your way, or other umpires when it's close it's going your way? Is that a thing for players?
It exists. And umpires after a while get to know you, your personality, so they're aware. And some guys are a little more accepting, others aren't.
Yeah.
Others demand more respect. It
Yeah.
just depends on everybody. But I want to say that, I was trying to develop personal relationships with all the umpires so they would understand that, because I knew and I was aware that my intensity got me to react quick.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it wasn't in the best way, because umpires maybe felt like I was showing them up, which I wasn't, but it's just, the way that I played.
Right.
I wasn't going to necessarily change 100% the way that I played, and then maybe I wouldn't get the same results. But I was trying to be sensitive to not, offend anybody or make them look bad.
Yeah.
I got a little better towards the end of my career, but I knew that that was one of the things that I needed to be way better at. And it was hard for me. But yeah, with some of the guys, you knew when to push it and when not to push it. And the guys that commanded more respect, and the guys that were good, the guys that had a reputation for maybe not being so great. So you try to be cognizant of that and be careful, because, maybe that will also try to control you when you react in the wrong way, and just kind of calm down afterwards and just kind of, limit the damage after that.
100%. So, and is that a thing that you're walking up to, you're an on-deck circle, you're walking up and kind of his repertoire. So are you adjusting kind of what you do, to kind of fit him, or are you just still doing what you do, but just being aware?
Only if it matches what the pitcher does. I would hate to try to adjust to an umpire if the pitcher doesn't really play into that anyway, because then I would say maybe it's a 90-10, 80-20 kind of weighted average on. I'm focused on the pitcher, 80 or 90, and then maybe 10-20 on the umpire. And only that 10 and 20 if they both have the same tendencies, or they love the pitcher likes to throw down and that umpire likes down, or that pitcher likes to throw away and the umpire likes away. But if they don't line up, it's 100%. I'm on the pitcher. Right. Whatever the umpire does, I mean, it's out of my control.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
And they're human, right? So they make mistakes just like we do. Right. I mean, I wanted to get a hit every time I went up to the plate, but I knew I wasn't doing it. And I'm sure that they don't want to miss calls.
100%.
Sometimes it happens.
Your like I talked about before, your intensity in baseball was like kind of like, you know, a football player in some ways. Do you think there are any other sports you probably could have went pro at?
No. The other sports are way too physical. Maybe if I would have trained different growing up. Yeah. Maybe I could have played soccer early on because I had especially when I was younger, I had a lot of like conditioning. Yeah. So I could run for 3 hours. Yeah. Growing up in the Dominican, that's all I did. As soon as I came home from school, I did my homework and I had my lunch, I would actually, you know, get kicked out of my house and I couldn't come back to dinner time. So I was on my own all afternoon with my friends after I got done with schoolwork, just to go do my thing. So my conditioning was real good. So maybe soccer, but I knew I'd never developed the skill, you know, and after you're 15, you can't go play with guys that have been playing soccer in an organized way at 15. You're going to get embarrassed. So it was too late for me at that point.
And I remember, you know, growing up and, you know, watching baseball and like, you know, dudes I looked up to, like Ken Griffey Jr., they do like, it felt like he was like Superman. Dude, I'll run, catch, throw, you know, hit for average, hit for power. Who are some of the guys that you looked up to, like, you know, growing up? Because I know the Dominican Republic, the Blue Jays have like kind of a huge influence there, right? So was it Blue Jay players or was it just like who were you looking up to?
Yeah, I was looking up to Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, George Bell, Tony Fernandez. Those were my guys. Edgar Martinez. You know, there was a ton of guys. I could go that Robbie Alomar. Yeah. You would pick like the guys that stood out at each position and you just kind of try to emulate them. Because when I was growing up, you'd play every position just so you can say that you're playing the game. Because one day, you know, the coaches move you around. In Dominican, they try to make you play every position. So if I'm playing center field, I'm Ken Griffey Jr. or Kenny Lofton that day. You know, if I'm playing shortstop, I'm Tony Fernandez or Omar Vizquel that day. You know, and you know, you just look up to a lot of the guys. So it's crazy. So many great players over the years that I've gotten the chance to watch and follow and get inspired by. So it's awesome.
100%. And you've in your time in Toronto, you've always been, you know, big on charity. And, you know, right now I've seen you, you know, post up about Pedro Martinez and doing stuff in Dominican Republic to, you know, kind of help the relief efforts there. Why has charity been, you know, kind of a big part of your game?
Well, I realized early on that in this life, and I think this partly I learned in my home and then also in the baseball environment, it's not only about hard work, it's not only about dedication, it's not only about talent and skill. You also need a little bit of help, whether it's somebody that sees that in you or somebody that knows somebody that can open a door for you. You know, I learned that early on, and I got a ton of help from a bunch of different people, coaches, friends, teammates, you know, you name it, along my career and my path. That once I got that big security with my contract, I was like, okay, it's time to pay it back. And I established my own foundation. We've kind of slowed down a little bit because of my transition, but I'm gonna pick some events back up and kind of start raising money again. But we graduated up to date like 42 kids from college from different countries, playing all kinds of different sports in the US and Canada. We have 4 left, so we're helping them finish up. And then I've also been supporting different things over my career, like the J Scare Foundations, every event that any teammate ever had or coach that I was honored to be invited to. I've gotten involved with some anti-PED organizations in the past. and like you said, supporting now that I haven't been playing, Pedro Martinez, David Ortiz's foundation, Edwin Encarnacion's foundation, and we got together earlier this year for the COVID-19 efforts that we took to Dominican. A bunch of money we raised. Every Dominican baseball major leaguer that we could get a hold of, we created a big group chat on WhatsApp. We just started changing ideas, and we got together a bunch of funds, and we got people to donate. We donated ourselves, and we started, for a third world country, sometimes the best thing you can do maybe is not give them, tests or masks or gowns. Sometimes when situations like these happen and they can't work, they literally they don't know what they're going to eat tomorrow. So we ended up doing a bunch of food donations, but we also try to help the frontline workers with the protection gear. So we were able to raise seven figures.
Wow.
And help out a lot of people. So we're still kind of finishing that up. We haven't wrapped it up yet because money's still coming in, and we're still helping out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's actually phenomenal. I wanted to ask you, during your rise, did it first of all, did it surprise you? And was there anybody hitting you up like, Jose, I didn't even know you had that in you, man? Like, was family hitting you up like, yo, when did this happen? Like, or were your boys being like, yo, this is what you're doing now? So like, was there any of that, or did kind of everybody, expect it to happen?
I would say it was in between. They're like, I always knew you could do something like this.
Yeah.
But you're really doing it? Like, are you serious right now? Yeah, I got a bunch of that from a bunch of friends back home, here in the States, former college, teammates, my agent, my family. Everybody was like just enjoying it,
yeah.
But helping me out along the way and encouraging me and saying, don't look back, keep it going. Because it was great. I couldn't ask for better support.
That's awesome. And we're finally at the end, and I always play a game with my guests, and this one is called gut check time. So I'll basically ask you, choose between two guys. So maybe I'll ask you, MJ or LeBron.
Is this like cup check?
Yeah, I should call it cut check. Yeah, who you got your money on? But yeah, no, you just basically choose between two guys. So like I said, MJ or LeBron, and you tell me who you choose, and
sounds good.
Go from there. All right. So first one I got is Messi or Ronaldo.
Messi. That's easy. Come on, I'm a Barca fan.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Liverpool fan. You see it right here.
Yeah.
You need one game to win: Stroman or Estrada.
Stroman.
Ooh.
They're both great, but I'm picking Stroman.
Okay. Vladdy Jr. or Vladdy Sr.
Right now, Vladdy Sr. I mean, what that man did was special.
Yeah, he did. He had it all. Dome open or dome closed?
Open, man. That ball flies when it's open.
Yeah, you
and
would
it's
know.
a little cooler. When it's closed, man, it can get steamy in there.
The best place to hit a home run, Yankee Stadium or Fenway Park?
Fenway. I love the history there.
Walk-up music, Drake trophies or back-to-back?
I played them both, but I like trophies better.
Yeah. And last but not least, the Toronto Argonauts or the Hamilton Tiger Cats?
I mean, I got to go for the city, so Toronto is where it's at.
Let's go. Oh, man, Jose, this was awesome, man. I really appreciate you, man, taking the time to do this on the All Ball podcast. You got a lot of great things going on. You did a lot for the city, did a lot for me. I mean, as a fan, just being excited to watch the games and knowing that, it was going to be a show. So I appreciate you coming on, and, hopefully get you back on at some point. But I appreciate you, man.
No, thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and I miss Toronto a lot. So hopefully it's not over.
Right.
I'm gonna try to come back as much as I can and keep the relationship going and continue to make an impact. So I've always, I've recently kind of got a little bit caught up with your career as well. So I see you went ham last year. And
do my thing.
I'm gonna need you to do it again.
Hey, I got you, man. I got you. I'm back in the city now, so I gotta do it for the city.